In the Middle East, beyond the familiar roads and the headlines on the news, there are still lands forgotten by time. Ancient stone valleys, silent oases, and abandoned towns lie deep within the desert, where the traces of once thriving civilizations remain carved into every cliff face. Many of these places barely appear on travel maps. Harsh routes, extreme climates, and stories preserved only through the voices of local people. From glowing red canyons and blinding white salt flats to fortresses swallowed by sand and ancient trade roads, each destination is a hidden piece of the Middle East. In this video, we step into Hidden Middle East, forgotten lands the world never truly knew. Standing alone on a desert plateau in central Yemen, Shibam looks like a block of vertical architecture rising from a vast, empty space. At this site, around 500 mud brick towers between 5 and 11 stories tall have survived for centuries without using concrete or steel. Each alley is only about 6 feet wide, and the lower walls have no windows to protect residents from wild animals and intruders. Local people still follow a yearly tradition of hand plastering the outer walls to stop them from cracking or falling apart. Access to Shibam is limited by a few dirt roads, and many young people have moved away for work, leaving mostly older residents behind. UNESCO added the city to its list of endangered heritage sites in 2015 due to conflict and extreme environmental conditions. From an ancient volcanic region in northeastern Iran, Kandovan stands out with hundreds of stone homes carved directly into steep, natural tough rock slopes. According to records from 2019, more than 60% of young people left because Kandovan lacks electricity, schools, and basic medical services. Here, cone-shaped rock pillars rising up to 60 feet were formed by compressed volcanic ash over hundreds of thousands of years, creating a rare hollow stone structure. Inside the steep stone formations are homes with up to 4 levels, linked by spiral stairways carved deep into the rock since the 13th century. During the 20th century, relocation was repeatedly proposed by authorities, but residents refused, viewing Kandovan as the last place preserving their ancestral memory. Khoga Zanbil in Iran is one of the oldest and largest surviving religious structures from the Elamite civilization over 3,000 years ago. There were no villages or settlements around it, as this temple was a separate spiritual center, built only for the god in Shushinak. The structure stood about 80 feet tall, once had 5 levels, and was made from more than 500,000 handmade bricks fired on site. Today, there are no official tours, signs, or places to stay near this forgotten site. Many parts of the monument were reconstructed based on drawings by architect Roman Gierschmann, who excavated the site for 15 years. Hatra, Iraq, is known as a religious city and desert fortress that once repelled 2 invasions by the Roman Empire. The city was surrounded by 2 strong defensive walls and more than 160 watchtowers, forming an advanced defense system for its time. The Roman Empire failed twice to capture this city, even though they had more soldiers and better weapons. In the year 241, the city suddenly collapsed after being taken by the Sassanids, and it was left empty forever. UNESCO named Hatra a World Heritage Site in 1985 for its ancient military architecture and valuable archaeological remains. Located in one of the driest regions of northern Oman, Bahrain Fort is a hand-built mud brick fortress covering more than 355,000 square feet with an unusual and uneven design. The entire structure was made by hand using clay and gravel, with walls reaching 50 feet high and 10 feet thick, without any steel or modern materials. Inside are hundreds of prison rooms, watchtowers, sloped arches, and a deep well that once helped it survive long sieges. Even though it is now a World Heritage Site, the whole building has no electricity water system or concrete to keep its original condition. After the Neban tribe lost power, this place was left behind in the desert, avoided by people with cracked earth waiting to collapse. After being suppressed by the Roman Empire, Palmyra, Syria became a remote military outpost and was gradually abandoned from the 4th century. Palmyra suffered major damage in modern conflict, with many parts bombed and destroyed since the year 2015. This place sits in the middle of the Syrian desert, over 150 miles from the sea, between ancient tectonic belts of the Middle East. Palmyra's buildings were made mostly from soft sandstone that was easy to carve but weak against erosion, making the site extremely fragile today. After the conflict, Palmyra was left in ruins, becoming a symbol of a lost civilization that cannot be fully restored. Located amid cracked land in southern Iraq, Ur once served as a major center of belief and power within the ancient Sumerian civilization. The entire city was built from fired mud bricks made of river silt, with some bricks weighing about 66 pounds and surviving across 3 long historical eras. Only about 1% of the city of Ur has been carefully excavated, while the rest remains buried beneath more than 12 feet of desert sand. By the 19th century, the modern world no longer knew Ur had existed until Leonard Woolley uncovered it in 1922. Across the lowlands of southern Iraq, Babylon once stood as an ancient center of power, built on layers of fertile silt between two great rivers. Its defensive walls, stretched 11 miles long, rose over 80 feet high and reached nearly 40 feet thick, formed entirely from fired bricks stamped with the name of King Nebuchadnezzar II. The temples of Babylon followed a ziggurat design, a stepped tower rising to about 300 feet, representing a sacred link between divine authority and earthly rule. The name Babylon was later forbidden in some medieval Islamic writings because it became associated with pride and moral downfall in religious tradition. What remains today are cracked mud foundations, corridors and stairways, showing how the city was gradually abandoned before collapsing into long-lasting silence. In the limestone plateau of southern Iran, Persepolis stands alone on an artificial foundation nearly 40 feet high, once serving as the ceremonial heart of the Achaemenid Empire. All structures were built without roofs, turning the site into a vast stone stage where light falls directly onto carefully carved reliefs. The stairways leading to the main platform were gently sloped, so war elephants and tribute processions from more than 70 subject lands could move upward with ease. No relief is repeated, as each garment posture and offering records the distinct cultural identity of different ancient territories. After being burned by Alexander the Great, the site was completely abandoned because it lay outside major trade routes and lacked a permanent civilian population. Today, dark burn marks on stone and fallen columns remain as the final physical trace of an empire that once ruled nearly half of the known world. Pasargadae, located in southern Iran, was the first capital of the ancient Persian Empire, left isolated in a barren land, stretching nearly 6,000 feet wide. Each stone used to build the tomb weighs up to 10 tons and was fitted tightly without mortar, showing extremely precise and durable construction skills. Unfinished structures and collapsed foundations are the clearest signs of a sudden abandonment after less than 200 years of existence. Local people once believed the tomb belonged to King Solomon's mother, which kept the site untouched for centuries under quiet reverence. After Persepolis was built, Pasargadae was no longer the main capital and was gradually forgotten by the rulers. Rijal Almaa is a centuries-old village hidden deep in the southwestern mountains of Saudi Arabia, built entirely from basalt stone clay and native cedar wood. It has more than 60 buildings standing to 8 stories tall, all made by hand using basalt-packed earth and local timber. Once a main trade stop connecting the highlands to the coast, Rijal Almaa survived thanks to natural mountain channels and ancient stone water tanks. The structures were built without concrete foundations, placing stone blocks directly on firm ground to adapt to shaking and shifting terrain. Before 2008, Rijal Almaa was not listed in international records and had almost disappeared from modern maps for over 50 years. Once a sacred heart of the Levant Baalbek in Lebanon, now stands like a forgotten monument on the Bekaa Plateau. The stones used to build its temples weigh up to 1,000 tons and rest on dense limestone bedrock beneath the site. Its tallest column reaches 66 feet, carved from a single block and decorated in the Corinthian style. Baalbek was once a major ceremonial center, but was left behind after invasions and shifts in trade routes. The semi-arid land and rugged terrain, surrounded by valleys and mountains, highlight the massive and isolated scale of the temple complex. After trade routes moved across the desert, Baalbek lost its economic importance and today receives fewer than 50,000 international visitors each year, despite being a World Heritage Site. Perched on sheer cliffs in northern Iran, Alamut Castle once shaped the survival and fate of an entire religious community. The fortress stretched more than 1,400 feet in length and barely exceeded 30 feet in width, built directly atop natural rock, rising over 6,600 feet. Despite surrender, the Mongol forces completely destroyed the fortress, burned its main structures, and executed many Ismaili followers as a warning to the wider region. Susa in Iran is one of the oldest ancient cities in the world and once stood as a core center of power and trade linking Asia and Europe. Susa was built on land that once marked the edge of the ancient Tethys Sea and is now a barren plateau lying between two major rivers. Stone columns rising about 66 feet once supported a royal hall where the names of 23 subject peoples of the Persian Empire were carved. Susa was abandoned after nearby rivers changed course, leaving stacked layers of ancient brick isolated across a dry and empty plain. At the edge of the Syrian desert, Damascus has survived for more than 11,000 years as a stone-built city holding on near collapse. Every corner of the old city was built like a maze, using limestone with courtyards, domes, and wells to slow invaders and protect residents. A single river kept the area alive for centuries, turning it into a real oasis with gardens and enough water for people to survive. Builders used local sandstone and limestone taken from mountains about 5 miles away as the main materials for the entire city. Many ancient limestone structures are now fragile and risk falling down due to heavy pollution and more frequent earthquakes. A report in 2018 showed the war starting in 2011 forced over 30% of people in the old city to leave their homes. Masada is an ancient fortress perched alone on top of a sandstone cliff in the Judean desert, rising more than 1,300 feet. The entire summit is a flat and exposed plateau with no shade, fully open under the scorching desert sun. The dry desert climate has preserved its ancient structures in nearly perfect condition for over 2,000 years without any roof protection. Masada was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2001 for its unique architecture and timeless message of loyalty and freedom. Many travelers hike uphill before dawn to touch the ruins and watch the sun rise over the Dead Sea from the ancient stone walls. It was not until 1963 that Masada was officially excavated, after being buried and forgotten in the harsh desert for almost 2,000 years. Hatra is the largest Nabataean archaeological site in Saudi Arabia, but it never developed into a permanent residential city. You enter a wide, empty desert where massive carved tombs stand alone without fences or any natural protection. Each structure feels isolated and abandoned, with no visible roads, plazas, or evidence of a once living community. The sandstone is soft and fragile, so ancient builders had to choose carving spots carefully to avoid collapse over time. Greek and Roman design patterns appear on many tomb facades, showing how foreign art shaped local funeral architecture. One traveler described standing alone in front of a 40-foot tomb, feeling watched by something that left and never returned. Samarra lies along the Tigris River in central Iraq and was once a vast city built with the ambition to dominate the entire Islamic world in the 9th century. The whole city was abandoned after only 56 years due to weak soil, shifting river courses, and long internal conflicts. The Great Mosque of Samarra was once the largest Islamic structure in the world, covering more than 25 acres when completed in the year 851. The palaces here used passive cooling by placing open courtyards and water basins in the center of their design. To this day, no modern city has been built over Samarra, creating a strange empty zone in the middle of present-day Iraq. The once endless palace corridors are now only broken bricks and shadows lying exposed in ancient silt that has never been fully excavated. Taq Kasra in Iraq is the last remaining brick arch from the Sassanid Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in Mesopotamia before Islam appeared. Its parabolic arch rises over 100 feet and was built using tilted, baked bricks without any steel concrete or central support system. This is a technical achievement from ancient times that still surprises researchers because the tilted bricks were placed to create a self-supporting structure. During the Iraq War in 2003, the area around Taq Kasra was hit by bombs, but the arch did not collapse. With no long-term protection plan from the government, the arch is now listed among the structures with the highest risk of collapse. After the fall of the Sassanid Empire, the place was no longer used because it did not fit the goals of the next rulers. Quseir Amra is a desert monument from the Umayyad era in Jordan, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985 for its unique art and architecture. There are no signs or marked paths, making visitors feel like they have stepped into forgotten ruins, buried by time. The dome ceiling shows 35 constellations, revealing early astronomical knowledge rarely found in Islamic architecture. The structure stands in total silence, surrounded by lifeless land, with no sounds, movement, or signs of human presence. A single deep well cut through solid rock once provided water, showing how people survived in extreme desert conditions. Visitors are often surprised by wall paintings of people and animals inside private rooms, showing how Umayyad society expressed life beyond religion. Al-Ula is an ancient sandstone region in northwestern Saudi Arabia, known for its solid rock architecture, standing alone in the desert. The landscape has no rivers or shade, yet ancient human traces remain, leaving archaeologists puzzled by how people once lived here. Every journey to this place requires travelers to sleep in open desert, with no electricity, no water, and no signal. The area's geology has created towering stone pillars, shaped like man-made columns formed by erosion over millions of years. Ancient builders carved temples straight into mountain faces, blending structures into the terrain without using bricks or joints. Throughout the 20th century, Al-Ula was left off most Western maps because filming, surveying, and publishing site data were all strictly forbidden. Mount Sinai is a sacred mountain on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, honored by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as a place of divine encounter. The steep and barren landscape feels lifeless, making visitors feel small while standing among bare cliffs and total silence. Pilgrims climb more than 3,000 rough stone steps, facing cold winds and darkness, with flashlights and water in their backpacks. This ancient granite mountain, formed nearly 600 million years ago, built in one of the oldest crust zones on Earth. For centuries, people believed that reaching the summit frees the mind from the weight of the physical world. The mountain's shared holiness across faiths allows Mount Sinai to rise above religious boundaries and become a symbol of universal reverence. Jebel Fihrayn rises from the Saudi Arabian desert like a vertical stone wall, stretching for dozens of miles across completely flat land. There is no official road leading here, and you must navigate over 30 miles of empty desert to reach the edge of the cliff. The rock face is made of ancient marine sediment, over 100 million years old, showing the clear imprint of the old Tuwaiq Plateau. No one has ever lived permanently in this place because of the harsh environment. Only nomads occasionally pass through during seasonal migration. Some travelers drop small stones from the top and count over 6 seconds before hearing them hit the ground due to the height and thin air. Wadi Rum lies in southern Jordan and stands out as a vast rock desert shaped by ancient geology and an almost unreal natural setting. The landscape combines deep red sand, dark stone surfaces, and towering amber-colored cliffs that make visitors feel detached from the familiar world. Staying overnight without water, electricity, or signal forces travelers to confront physical limits and experience true isolation under the open desert sky. Across the rock faces, more than 25,000 ancient carvings remain unreadable, showing traces of prehistoric cultures that once struggled to survive here. Beneath the sand lie hardened mud layers, evidence that this desert was once covered by an ancient sea millions of years ago. Although many passed through, no civilization settled permanently, as the harsh environment made long-term human belonging nearly impossible. Mar Saba is an ancient Greek Orthodox monastery, standing alone in the Palestinian desert, active for over 1,500 years, without interruption. The entire complex was built using only stone and wood, anchored directly into the cliff face without any modern foundation. If you are a woman, you cannot enter the monastery, as strict monastic rules have been preserved here for centuries. Visitors often describe climbing narrow steps carved into rock, where doors and windows follow the jagged shape of the natural wall. Mar Saba is not just a religious site, but the last living trace of a once widespread monastic network across the ancient Middle East. The harsh isolation and rejection of modern life make this place a powerful symbol of spiritual endurance and cultural resistance. Dasht-e Lut is located in southeastern Iran, spreading across an isolated inland region where natural conditions extend far beyond normal limits for long-term human survival. Scientific studies confirm that Dasht-e Lut has recorded surface temperatures above 160 degrees Fahrenheit and covers more than 20,000 square miles of continuous extreme terrain. Historically, This region shows almost no long-term human settlement because it lacks stable surface water and contains no permanent architectural structures. The landscape of Dasht-e Lut is defined by sharp landforms, hardened rock, and salt surfaces, and an almost complete absence of vegetation across most areas. Scientists regard this desert as a natural laboratory for studying heat tolerance limits, wind-driven erosion, and environments that approach lifeless conditions. The surface of Dasht-e Lut absorbs solar radiation intensely due to its dark color and dense rock structure, causing heat to accumulate much faster than in sandy deserts. Rub al-Khali lies at the heart of the Arabian Peninsula and is recognized as the largest continuous sand desert on Earth, defined by extreme isolation and terrain severity. The entire region developed above a massive sedimentary basin where sand accumulated over millions of years through long-term wind-driven processes. Several dunes within the desert rise higher than 800 feet, placing them among the tallest sand dunes ever measured by satellite systems. The surface shows almost no exposed rock or fixed landmarks, leaving ground travel routes without stable visual reference points. In certain zones, sand layers reach several hundred feet thick, fully burying the original terrain and erasing surface features over time. Most uniquely buried ancient river channels and former lake basins have been detected beneath the sand using subsurface radar imaging. Shiraz is located within a broad basin in southern Iran and stands out as a long-established city that developed steadily inside a semi-arid landscape surrounded by elevated terrain. The city sits at an elevation of about 4,900 feet, allowing urban conditions to remain more balanced than many nearby inland dry regions. With a population exceeding 1,500,000 people, Shiraz is large enough to support cultural diversity while avoiding excessive pressure on its urban structure. Shiraz expanded mainly across horizontal space, prioritizing open areas and walkable layouts, reflecting long-term adaptation to limited natural resources. Urban studies frequently identify Shiraz as a city that has remained continuously active for over 1,000 years without reliance on heavy industrial development. The city is closely associated with Persian poetic traditions, shaping thought education and intellectual life across Iranian society. Shivta is an abandoned limestone city in the Negev desert, with no rivers, no oases, and no longer connected to any modern trade route. It receives only about 8 inches of rain each year, yet ancient people built more than 40 underground cisterns beneath the hard, rocky surface. The land surrounding Shivta is strikingly flat, allowing the eye to see all the way to the horizon, without interruption or natural barriers. At its peak, Shivta served hundreds of incense caravans traveling over 900 miles of desert between Arabia and the Mediterranean world. Recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 2005, Shivta remains silent, like a farewell left behind by a civilization that withdrew on its own. Mecca is located in western Saudi Arabia, nestled between steep grey mountains, forming an isolated basin that is nearly impossible to access. The city was built on ancient granite bedrock that is hundreds of millions of years old and was once a seasonal shelter from extreme conditions. Flash floods repeatedly threatened the people here, forcing them to build an underground drainage system over 19 miles long, just to survive. Non-Muslims are completely prohibited from entering the area under a religious ban that is enforced at every administrative level. The security network in Mecca is one of the largest full-time surveillance systems in the world, with more than 5,000 cameras surrounding the area. Amid the dry basalt plateau of western Saudi Arabia, Medina appears as a forbidden zone sealed off for more than 1,000 years. This landscape was shaped by ancient black lava flows, leaving basalt layers over 10 feet thick, surrounding the entire city edge. In the 7th century, it became the center of the first Muslim community, marking the beginning of the Islamic calendar. The area completely bans entry to non-believers, making Medina a blank spot on most modern digital maps. Some zones still show high magnetic fields that can disrupt navigation devices and create interference. No building is allowed to rise above the traditional domes, preserving original architectural proportions for over 1,400 years. Karbala is one of the most sacred places in Iraq, known for deep faith sacrifice and powerful spiritual meaning. Pilgrims walk for hundreds of miles across desert terrain, enduring harsh heat and limited resources just to reach this site. The dry landscape is covered in reddish soil and dust, creating a motionless scene where all colors seem to fade under the sun. Because of the extremely low humidity and fine sand, this area ranks among the fastest places for water to evaporate on Earth. Visitors stepping into the mirror-tiled interiors describe a cooling sensation as the soft reflections lower the heat despite outdoor temperatures over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. For centuries, Western maps left Karbala blank, marking it as a forbidden zone, both spiritually and geographically unreachable. The Dead Sea is a saltwater lake between Israel and Jordan, sitting about 1,400 feet below sea level, making it the lowest point on land. Floating in its still heavy water with no waves or life around you feels like drifting through empty space. For thousands of years, ancient people collected salt and natural asphalt here to embalm bodies and preserve sacred artifacts. Cracks in the salt crust constantly form over 6,000 sinkholes, changing the shoreline in ways no one can predict. Even without any outlet, the lake has survived for millions of years by trapping minerals through extreme evaporation. This is a place with no birds, no insects, no floating trash, a silent space that feels frozen in time. Bethlehem, Palestine, is built on limestone hills about 2,500 feet above sea level, creating a dry semi-desert climate. As you walk along the narrow and sloped stone streets, the uneven space forces you to slow down and stay quiet. The city rises along natural white rock slopes, with homes stacked like layers of memory, standing tall in a rugged landscape. Ancient rainwater systems still work today, collecting each drop as if holding on to life in a place where dryness never ends. Old writings mentioned Bethlehem over 3,000 years ago, showing it as a central memory point of the Middle East. Deep marks shaped like hands remain on the stone walls left by millions of pilgrims, touching the same spot through the flow of time. Nazareth is an ancient town in northern Israel known as the childhood home of Jesus and a center of deep religious meaning. The dry hills' grey limestone and red dust create a harsh and quiet landscape that feels completely separated from the outside world. Many old buildings are carved downward into the rock instead of rising upward, blending into the rugged terrain around them. You are expected to stay completely silent during the spiritual walk through Nazareth to fully absorb the sense of faith beneath your feet. The town stands on wind-eroded limestone shaped over millions of years, making the land wavy and difficult for farming. On ancient Roman maps, Nazareth was not even marked as it was too small and far from any major trade route. Sagilla, Syria, is located on a dry limestone plateau about 2,300 feet high, surrounded by empty land and bare rocks. The standing walls without roofs still show every shape clearly, like a full three-dimensional blueprint carved into the silent ground. As you walk through Sagilla, it feels like entering a fossilized city that remains untouched, abandoned, but never destroyed. Although UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site in 2011, the entire site still has no fence ticket booth or staff on duty. Najaf is a sacred city in central Iraq, rising from the desert as a powerful symbol of martyrdom within Shia Islamic history. The landscape is completely flat, with no hills, leaving visitors fully exposed under harsh sunlight and endless white glare. Traditional buildings spread outward instead of upward, a design choice that helps reduce heat buildup and withstand dry desert winds. For Shia Muslims, traveling to Najaf is not a vacation, but a return to spiritual roots where faith, death, and history merge. Mount Nebo in Jordan rises about 2,300 feet above sea level, standing alone on a dry plateau with wide open views. Strong winds, harsh sunlight, and cracked stone make visitors feel they are walking into a place that exists outside normal time. As you stand still, the ground shifts in color from gray to reddish-brown, giving the strange impression that the land moves while everything stays silent. From Roman times until today, this mountain has remained a meeting point of cultures and faiths never destroyed despite repeated conflict. Even with its global religious meaning, no permanent settlement has ever survived around Mount Nebo for more than 1,000 years. Qom is a major religious city in central Iran, recognized as the birthplace of Shia thought, shaping faith education and politics across the country. When visiting Qom, travelers are expected to stay quiet and behave respectfully because the entire city is treated as a fully sacred environment. Large religious buildings are constructed low and wide, with thick walls and soft light that reduce heat and keep interiors calm. Because there is no reliable groundwater year-round, daily life depends on water brought through underground systems from distant sources. Some visitors describe walking slowly through Qom as physically tiring, yet mentally focused, feeling history and belief pressed down in the dry desert air. Hebron is one of the 4 most sacred cities in Judaism and also holds key importance in both Islam and Christianity. The city is located on a high plateau at about 3,050 feet, giving it cooler air and less oxygen than nearby lowlands. Many buildings here are strangely divided vertically, with the lower floors completely abandoned, while families still live normally above. When visiting Hebron, you will walk through streets split by fences with security cameras and separate paths for different groups. Hebron marks the site of the 1994 mosque massacre, which caused a permanent shift in how the area is monitored and controlled. Despite all the events, no international body has ever taken full control of Hebron, and its population structure has stayed the same for centuries. Bahrain Fort stands as a forgotten capital of the ancient Dilmun civilization, now exposed and silent in the middle of a desolate plain. The structure rises on an artificial mound, about 40 feet high, layered with over 4,000 years of human survival and collapse. You can walk along the top of the old stone walls, where guards once watched incoming warships, now overlooking a dry and salty bay. Surrounding the site are cracked salt flats, where seawater once flowed, leaving behind a barren landscape that looks like another planet. Its architecture reveals how ancient civilizations rose and fell with each new layer, built directly over the ruins of the one before. After 30 years of excavation, no writing system has been found, making Bahrain Fort the most silent ancient fortress in the Middle East. Socotra is a remote island in Yemen, known for its ancient biology and strange-looking plants that create a surreal alien landscape. Nearly 40% of the island's plant species are found nowhere else on Earth, shaped by millions of years of isolated evolution. The scattered trees grow directly from white rock and cracked soil, giving visitors the feeling of walking through a lifeless dream. Travelers often face cancelled flights and long delays, since harsh weather and limited access can isolate the island for many days. Local people speak an ancient language unrelated to modern Arabic and follow traditional lifestyles disconnected from the outside world. In 2010, NASA studied Socotra's plants to simulate how life might survive on dry and hostile planets in future space missions. Jebel Hafeet is a solitary limestone mountain rising from the desert of the United Arab Emirates, reaching roughly 4,100 feet and forming one of the region's most visible natural landmarks. The mountain is composed of ancient marine sediment layers formed around 40 million years ago, reflecting a period when the area lay beneath a shallow ocean. Exposed rock faces reveal strong folding caused by movement of the Arabian Plate, allowing scientists to trace long-term processes of crustal uplift. The surrounding terrain remains almost completely flat, making the nearly 4,000-foot elevation difference of Jebel Hafeet easily recognizable from great distances. Marine fossils preserved within the dry limestone layers confirm a complete environmental shift from oceanic conditions to an arid desert landscape. Jebel Hafeet is regarded as a rare open-air geological archive in the United Arab Emirates, where tens of millions of years of natural history are directly visible on the rock surface. Musandam Fjords is located along the northern edge of Oman, where coastal mountains are deeply cut by the sea, forming a rare fjord system within the Middle East. The landscape formed mainly through tectonic uplift, followed by seawater intrusion and prolonged erosion acting on fractured limestone terrain. Musandam Fjords attracts visitors through boat travel along steep rock walls, where deep waters allow close contact with dramatic natural scenery. The scenery is defined by rock faces rising several hundred feet directly from the sea, while sparse vegetation leaves geological structures visually dominant. This combination of desert conditions and fjord geometry makes Musandam fjords a rare reference site for studying non-glacial marine landforms. Because of its scientific value and unusual appearance, the area is regarded as a unique geological symbol shaped by long-term tectonic movement and marine erosion. Al-Ahsa Oasis is located within the eastern desert region of Saudi Arabia, standing out as a rare, continuous green ecosystem sustained entirely in an arid environment. Its entire ecosystem is sustained by ancient underground aquifers formed tens of thousands of years ago, operating independently from modern rainfall patterns. The oasis supports over 2 million date palm trees, allowing long-term agricultural production under extremely harsh geographic conditions. Human settlement and farming have continued here for more than 5,000 years, making it one of the oldest agricultural landscapes on the Arabian Peninsula. Water distribution across the oasis relies on gravity-driven systems, enabling large-scale irrigation without the use of modern mechanical technology. What makes Al-Ahsa exceptional is that it once contained more than 100 natural springs operating simultaneously, a rarity among desert oases. Hormuz Island lies off the coast of Iran and stands out because the entire island formed from an ancient salt dome rising to the surface, creating a rare geological structure. Hormuz Island is essentially a massive salt dome created when ancient salt layers were pushed upward by long-term tectonic plate activity. The island's surface lacks large vegetation, allowing direct observation of rock layers, salt deposits and tectonic structures without drilling or excavation. In certain soil layers, iron oxide levels are high enough to produce stable red coloration that does not fade after repeated natural erosion cycles. Hormuz Island does not focus on resort tourism, instead attracting people interested in earth science and highly unusual geological landscapes. Geological research confirms the island's salt layers are more than 500 million years old, placing them among the oldest exposed materials in Iran. Wadi al-Hitan lies deep within the Egyptian desert and is recognized for a whale fossil exceeding 65 feet that remains almost completely preserved. This region demands difficult travel, where visitors must carry their own water and walk many miles across expansive sand. Fossils dated at more than 37 million years reveal the transition of ancient mammals from land to ocean life. Certain skeletons still contain traces of stomach material that allow scientists to reconstruct the ancient marine food chain. The landscape consists of limestone layers, long sand dunes, and strong desert weathering that shapes distinctive formations. UNESCO classifies this site as a place of outstanding universal value due to its intact fossils and exceptional concentration. Jebel al-Nour is located in western inland Saudi Arabia and stands out as a rocky mountain defined by steep fractured slopes and an almost completely exposed natural surface. The mountain rises to about 2,100 feet, creating significant elevation change that requires physical endurance and careful movement across unstable stone terrain. The geological composition of Jebel al-Nour consists mainly of hard rock that resists weathering, allowing the mountain to preserve sharp structural features over long geological periods. Jebel al-Nour is closely linked to a pivotal religious event, giving the mountain a distinct and lasting place within the history of Islam. Souq Al-Mubarakiya is located in the urban core of Kuwait and stands as one of the country's oldest traditional markets, distinguished by over 100 years of continuous trading activity. The entire market is organized through a network of narrow walkways, many measuring under 10 feet wide, reflecting commercial layouts from the pre-automobile era. High stall density with only a few feet between vendors creates a compact spatial structure that naturally guides pedestrian movement without artificial circulation systems. Clearly defined product zones indicate the market once served as the primary distribution center for food and daily goods before the rise of modern retail. Urban planning studies recognize Souq Al-Mubarakiya as a rare case of a traditional market adapting to modern development without altering its core structure. Jeddah Oldtown is located along the Red Sea coast and developed as a dense maritime city with multi-story coral stone houses reflecting a long history of sea-based trade. Many buildings rise between 6 and 7 stories, showing early vertical urban development created to manage limited land within a compact historic environment. The primary construction material is locally sourced coral stone, which research confirms provides better natural insulation than many solid rock alternatives. Residential structures combine narrow facades with projecting wooden balconies, increasing passive ventilation and limiting heat accumulation in a humid coastal setting. Jeddah Oldtown was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 2014, confirming the global value of an Islamic maritime city that has existed continuously for over 1,000 years. Nizwa Fort is located in the interior of Oman and stands out for its massive circular tower measuring about 120 feet in diameter, a rare defensive structure in traditional military architecture. The fort was constructed during the 17th century and served as a combined center of political authority administration and military control during territorial consolidation. The entire structure was built using local stone, compacted earth, and lime, with walls measuring between 20 and 30 feet thick to withstand prolonged sieges. Its circular tower design helps distribute external forces more evenly than flat walls, contributing to long-term structural stability across several centuries. Interior spaces include narrow passages, spiral staircases, and interconnected chambers that allow strict control over human movement within the fortress. What makes Nizwa Fort exceptional is that its main tower supports thousands of tons of material above, while preserving an almost unchanged structural form. Misfat Al Abriyeen is positioned on a rocky mountain slope in Oman at around 3,000 feet, standing out as a rare cliff-based village with a vertical settlement layout. The entire community is built directly on solid bedrock, allowing multi-level structures to remain stable over long periods despite steep terrain. Village space is organized vertically with houses, pathways, and terraced fields stacked together to maximize extremely limited slope surface area. The water distribution system relies fully on natural gravity, delivering continuous flow through narrow channels across residential and farming zones. Visitor movement occurs almost entirely on foot, as narrow paths and stone steps connecting housing levels prevent motorized vehicles from operating inside the village. Byblos lies along the Mediterranean coast of Lebanon and stands out as an ancient city with uninterrupted settlement, where architectural layers accumulated across many millennia. Archaeological research confirms Byblos has been continuously inhabited for more than 7,000 years, making it one of the oldest recorded cities in human history. The urban layout reveals successive habitation layers that allow scholars to reconstruct the city development process through clearly distinct historical periods. Byblos is closely associated with the early development of the alphabet, which directly influenced later Greek and Roman writing systems. Luxor is located at the edge of the Egyptian desert and is known for containing ancient stone structures with exceptional preservation across the archaeological field. Visiting the area requires travelers to walk many miles through dry terrain without natural water sources and to carry all essential supplies. Sediment layers deeper than 30 feet and traces of ancient river floods provide important information about long-term environmental changes. Numerous stone blocks, transported from locations more than 150 miles away, demonstrate the complex construction methods of ancient builders. Weathered stone surfaces shaped over long periods, form an architectural landscape blended with desert terrain that holds significant geological value. Several stone statues weighing more than 200 tons still retain original pigments, offering rare evidence for studying ancient artistic practices. Jerash is located in northern Jordan and stands out as a Roman city covering over 100 acres with a stone-paved main street extending beyond 1 mile in length. The city was built on stable limestone ground, allowing large structures to remain standing for centuries without the need for deep modern foundation systems. Street layouts include gentle slopes and clearly defined drainage channels, demonstrating an advanced level of urban infrastructure engineering in the Roman period. During its peak in the 2nd century, Jerash supported a population exceeding 20,000 people, with plazas, theaters, and public buildings operating as an integrated system. More than 800 stone columns still stand in place, forming a rare, continuous architectural framework that preserves original construction proportions. Jerash is regarded as one of the clearest surviving examples of a complete Roman city existing outside Europe. Abu Simbel is located in southern Egypt, where massive temples were carved directly into sandstone cliffs, distinguished by rare monolithic architecture on an extraordinary scale. The main temple facade rises about 108 feet, featuring 4 seated statues, each roughly 65 feet tall, demonstrating remarkable planning and stone-cutting precision. The interior axis extends over 200 feet into the rock, forming continuous chambers, carved without internal columns or added structural reinforcement. The local sandstone shows stable layered composition, soft enough for fine carving, yet durable enough to preserve architectural forms across thousands of years. Interior reliefs remain sharply defined after more than 3,000 years due to arid desert conditions and enclosed spaces, limiting surface deterioration. During a visit, people move from open exterior zones into deep interior corridors, clearly sensing changing spatial proportions and the overwhelming mass of carved stone architecture. Crac des Chevaliers stands on a strategic high point in Syria, dominating the landscape as a massive stone fortress covering more than 7 acres with a complete double-wall defensive system. The fortress was constructed mainly during the 12th century and soon became one of the most militarily advanced medieval strongholds ever recorded. Its primary defensive walls were built with great thickness, designed to resist common siege weapons used before the emergence of artillery. The overall layout exploits open surrounding terrain, allowing long-range visibility and early detection of movement from multiple directions. Military historians regard Crac des Chevaliers as the peak of fortress design before the age of gunpowder artillery. el-Hiri is located on a flat landscape in Israel and stands out as a massive prehistoric stone complex formed by concentric rings with an outer diameter of about 500 feet. The entire structure was built from local basalt stone, with a total estimated mass exceeding 40,000 tons, indicating extraordinary levels of organized communal labor in prehistory. The stone rings do not form sealed walls, but include deliberate gaps, revealing precise geometric planning across a wide open spatial layout. Archaeological dating places its construction around 3,000 years before Christ, yet no evidence of housing, storage, or routine domestic activity has been identified. At the center stands a stone mound rising about 15 feet, forming the only vertical focal point within an otherwise horizontally expanded monument. Mount Nemrut is located in eastern Turkey and stands out for a monumental stone statue complex constructed on a mountain summit rising to about 7,100 feet. Archaeological research confirms the entire structure was built during the 1st century before Christ, clearly intended for ritual use rather than everyday settlement or habitation. Mount Nemrut offers a rare archaeological hiking experience, allowing visitors to approach massive stone statues scattered directly across the mountain's summit surface. The entire complex rests on an artificial stone mound exceeding 450 feet in diameter, formed by millions of intentionally stacked small rock fragments. Mountain terrain combined with unstable rocky foundations gradually caused the statue heads to separate from their bodies, creating an unusual archaeological condition. No evidence of long-term habitation has been identified, confirming Mount Nemrut was designed exclusively for ceremonial purposes rather than residential use. Laylish is a remote mountain valley in northern Iraq, where the Yazidi people see it as a sacred place beyond the reach of time. Hidden at around 2,800 feet above sea level, Laylish lies among three mountains shielded from the modern world. Its cone-shaped stone roofs rise from the earth as if built by forces unknown to regular human design. The site holds the tomb of Sheikh Adi ibn Musafir, a holy figure whose story is wrapped in legends and mysteries. Even after war and genocide, the Yazidi rebuilt Laylish themselves, as if faith there cannot be erased from memory. Though it has existed for thousands of years, the core belief at Laylish remains a mystery far beyond ordinary religion. In the heart of modern Qatar, Old Doha survives as a physical memory distorted by the rapid rise of the 21st century. Its shallow coastal basin once forced ships to anchor offshore because large vessels could not reach the narrow shoreline. Over 100 years ago, it was the trading heart of the Persian Gulf, thriving on pearl diving, dried fish, and ancient sea routes. Thick brick walls, narrow alleys, and flat rooftops still remain, acting as rare heat-resistant structures from the pre-air conditioning era. As new harbors rose and the sea was pushed back, old Doha was forgotten, its streets no longer connected to the present. With no billboards or skyscrapers, this place endures silently, like a lost historical file, never opened again. Manama Souk lies in Bahrain's capital, but feels like a preserved memory caught between concrete towers and the rush of modern life. Coming here, you can smell roasted coffee, touch glowing gold, and quietly sense that older rhythms of life have not fully disappeared. Since the 19th century, this place functioned as a vital Gulf trade hub, closely tied to the peak era of Bahrain's pearl economy. Narrow alleys and sudden turns shape a maze where the souk seems to vanish and reappear like fragments of living history. The Bab al-Bahrain Gate once faced the sea, now pushed miles inland by land reclamation that permanently altered the original coastline. Once considered outdated during the rise of modern malls, the market survives quietly through the weight of culture and collective memory. In the heart of Sharjah, United Arab Emirates, this old town preserves the soul of a Gulf city that once sustained entire trade networks. Its narrow alleys follow century-old street plans, untouched by modern buildings or asphalt roads, keeping history on every step. This was once a vital stop for pearl and salt merchants navigating trade routes from India to East Africa. Square wind towers still rise above chalky white roofs, silent structures built to cool homes without electricity in extreme desert heat. When oil reshaped the region's future, this area was left behind, neither destroyed nor modernized, simply paused in its own time. The old clay walls feel frozen in time, holding a quietness heavier than the noise of any modern world. Bima sinkhole is an extremely rare natural sinkhole in northeastern Oman, lying isolated between barren desert and deep offshore sea. Its almost perfect circular shape spans about 165 feet wide and over 65 feet deep, formed by collapsing ancient limestone layers. The water has an unusual taste between fresh and salty, caused by hidden mixing between underground aquifers and seawater offshore. In 2016, the area was developed into a conservation park to protect the sinkhole and restore its role as a national geological landmark. Survey devices once detected an abnormally deep depression at the bottom, forcing an international research team to halt exploration immediately. Dhofar in southern Oman is the only place in the region where mountains and desert exist together like a land from another world. The coastal cliffs rise over 500 feet, curving sharply to form rough, dramatic, and unpredictable rock formations. In the past, Dhofar controlled the world's largest frankincense trade route, connecting the Middle East, Africa, and ancient South Asia. Many natural stone wells carved into the highland remain unexplained, leaving strange geological patterns behind. These mountains were once the only place to find water and shade across hundreds of miles of harsh desert. Visitors can join locals to harvest frankincense by slicing the bark with a sickle, learning the rhythm of each drop of natural resin. Kurdistan in northern Iraq exists like a land erased from modern memory, even though it once sat along ancient trade arteries. Its land is full of broken stone mountains, deep cracks and valleys that almost completely isolate it from the south. Over 2,000 years ago, this was a key stop for goods and armies on routes between Mesopotamia and the Iranian plateau. Ground fractures stretch over 3 miles here, once seen as a natural border between ancient human life and sacred terrain. Hot mineral water still flows underground through limestone layers, yet almost no outsiders have ever seen or known of it. Today, Kurdistan exists quietly like a forgotten body, where time, place, and people no longer connect to the rest of the world. Located on the Judean highlands of Israel, Jerusalem was built on fractured limestone and naturally isolated by deep valleys and tectonic faults around it. The city has no rivers or lakes, but has survived for thousands of years thanks to underground water tunnels built during the Iron Age. Beneath the ground lies a network of more than 300 hidden archaeological tunnels, most of them closed due to unresolved religious conflicts. All buildings in Jerusalem are required to be made from Jerusalem stone, a pale yellow limestone that glows when sunlight hits its surface. Due to lack of space, many structures were dug deeper into the earth instead of expanding upward like modern cities. After the war in the year 70, the entire residential area was abandoned for nearly 70 years and buried under layers of historical ashes. Yazd is located in central Iran and is known as a city that has survived in the desert for over 2,000 years. It lies between two major deserts, where humidity is almost zero, rain is rare, and the temperature difference between day and night is extreme. To adapt, locals built wind towers that naturally cool the air by channeling desert breezes into enclosed living spaces. The whole city has a uniform earthy color that makes the architecture almost disappear into the surrounding land. Because of local materials and natural tones, the city's surfaces absorb less heat than the open desert around them.